from Stormwall Advisors. Michael, good to see you. So do you think the Fed tried to help Kamala, by the way, with its September rate cut? I wonder what it's doing now. Is it trying to pull back? What's happening exactly?
Well, I don't know whether they were trying to or not, but what I do know is it certainly did not help her at all. The markets loved the reduction in rates. It made everything less expensive, able to buy. However, the real economy was really suffering. What I think the market loved was the Trump victory because they see it as an absolute positive for the economy, for the real economy, not just for the markets. Now, at the same time, Trump has a really big challenge because what he's dealing with is overcoming the fake news economy of the last 3 or 4 years. What do I mean by that? Mm-hmm. We've talked on this show about how CPI has been underrepresenting actual inflation. The fake news statistics around high GDP, gross domestic product, use those same CPI data to say, oh yeah, the economy has been growing. But if CPI is higher, if inflation is higher, then real gross domestic product growth in the economy has been lower. And so the Trump administration is going to have to really focus on getting the real economy moving again. And that is going to be the challenge for the incoming team.
Michael, we learned this week again just how bad the Biden-Harris economy is that you're referencing. The latest inflation report for October showed that prices are creeping back up at a faster rate than the summer months. When Trump gets in, he is going to definitely have these challenges ahead. How would you advise him if he were to ask you how to head this whole thing off?
Well, let me just describe what I'm seeing. So I had a CEO acquaintance say to me the other day, no one wants to buy anything. And you're seeing that reality across the board. Just yesterday, Advanced Auto Parts announced they were going to close 10% of their stores, some 700 stores around the country. Now, it used to be in recessions that consumers would go to DIY shops, auto repair shops, do their own work. Now they can't even afford to do that. So the first challenge for President Trump is going to be getting the economy moving again. And the advice would be to follow through on the promises made, on the commitments that he's made to unleash our domestic energy productive capacity. When you get energy moving and get our prices down in energy, that affects everything else. Energy goes into all other aspects of inflation, food inflation, transportation, even shelter. Follow through on the commitment to address the trade imbalances, to make trade fair again for the United States, to ensure that we're working towards onshoring, reshoring, friendshoring, getting the not just energy, but the manufacturing base moving again. And most importantly, or broadly, I should say, pull away the regulatory red tape. Allow entrepreneurs, innovators, whether it be in AI, in crypto, or whatever technology, in energy, for example, to be able to start businesses, to grow their businesses, to hire employees without being caught up in this morass of red tape.
There's so many tentacles that go into helping our government recover, if you will, and interest rates is one of them. That discussion, of course, has been tantamount, naturally also shifting to housing costs. Mortgage rates so much higher these days than they were when Donald Trump left office. He apparently has some plans to lower housing costs. In fact, Time Magazine just explored some of the possibilities, what Trump's win could mean for housing. That was the headline in Time Magazine. Here's the big question, though, and this is kind of a two-parter. First of all, can America's economy ever really recover when so many people can't even afford to buy their homes? Secondly, as it relates to interest rates, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, President Trump has said he wants more input in Fed policy. There's also concern there's talk that Jerome Powell may be removed, that President Trump could remove him. Would any of those things happen? And do you think all of those things together could potentially help the economy, or at least allow President Trump to put his stamp on the economy?
So if you think about what happened, normally, if you'd asked an economist what would happen if we raised interest rates by 4%, they would say, oh no, well, housing prices will crash. That didn't happen this time. They raised interest rates, raised mortgage rates came up as a result, and yet housing prices continue to increase. Since the pandemic in the last few years, housing prices have gone up by as much as 50%. So you really are creating a tale of two economies, the haves and the have-nots. If you had a home, you're doing quite well. If you're a first-time buyer, you can't get in. So your first question, can the economy really recover, get moving again without housing costs coming down? No, you hit it right. We need to create opportunities for first-time buyers and others to be able to afford a house. It's the most unaffordable that it's ever been in the history of our country, and that is an injustice, and it doesn't allow the economy to actually grow and get moving, and for families to be able to create wealth. The initiatives that you described, Trump's consideration of the importance of monetary policy, these can all be beneficial. One of the biggest challenges that he faces and that he's acknowledged is we have to actually get inflation under control. It's not under control. We saw this month that inflation is going back up. For example, the cost of housing, cost of shelter is up 5% year over year. The cost of auto repair, which we just touched on, up 7%. Running a household, costs are up 5%. All of these things are feeding into this economy and creating challenges for everyday Americans. His priorities will have to address that. Inflation is with us for a while.
Michael, 30 seconds, just real quick. So do you think this is going to end up being a buyer's market? Do you think those home prices will come down under Trump? And if so, how would that happen? How would they do that?
So there's a few things. Number one, increasing the supply of housing, so opening up federal lands or other lands that have been blocked off, reducing the demand constraint that mass illegal immigration has caused, so opening up some homes that have been used for others than Americans. The other big piece is that we've had a lot of institutional buying of single-family homes. In other words, Wall Street, big ETFs, BlackRock, and others have been acquiring big swaths of single-family homes. Why? Because rates were low. They could afford to do it when mortgages were still high. So that has been a factor driving up prices. We've got to allow Americans to buy homes without competing with Wall Street for their starter home.
Great information. Michael, thanks so much for being here. Valuable.
Great to see y'all.
Thanks,
Michael.